So it has been 10 days since it was first found out that Toriyama had passed away. And when I found this out, and of course a lot of people have said this, but it's also true for me as well, I was shocked. I was stunned. I didn't know what to say, didn't know what to do. It was like a piece of the world had just broken because we were now in a world without Akira Toriyama. Dragon Ball Kai, Dragon Ball Z was a huge part of my childhood. Without Dragon Ball, I wouldn't be who I was today. And I want this video to be completely unscripted because I want it to come from the heart. And I don't want it to feel robotic. I don't think it would feel robotic even if it was scripted. But I really want this to be genuine because, when I found out that Akira Toriyama had died, like I said before, it felt like the world fell apart to me. And I remember when I first watched Dragon Ball Kai back in 2009, and it was on 4Kids. It aired every Saturday, and ever since then, Dragon Ball has been a great experience for me. Even when I first saw the trailer for it on 4Kids, it was like, oh, this looks really interesting. Like this looks really badass, and this looks like something that I'd want to watch. And I was just, I think, 6 years old back then, and every episode, just watching it was just pure hype. And I was also, watching Dragon Ball Z along with Dragon Ball Kai as well, because I didn't want to wait, every Saturday for a new episode. So I was watching the original Dragon Ball Z on YouTube as well, along with Dragon Ball Kai. And, my journey as a Dragon Ball fan started from there. And ever since then, I just knew more and more about Dragon Ball. Played the video games, watched more Dragon Ball videos on YouTube. Finding out about Super Saiyan 3 and then watching even more videos. Finding out about Super Saiyan 2 and 3, watching even more videos. Finding out about, like all of these games and stuff, and, by the time, before I turned 10, I just knew, like, pretty much, like, 90% of Dragon Ball Z and all of that stuff. And then, ever since then, I'm 21 years old now, so, pretty much Dragon Ball, the whole story, like the video games, it's been knocked inside my head, and I'm not as much as a Dragon Ball fan as I used to be back when I was a kid. But even then, this doesn't change the fact that Akira Toriyama, he created something that was a part of my life for a long time. I was drawing Dragon Ball Super Saiyan hairs like on my papers during school. I was drawing Super Saiyan 4 Gogeta on my notebook. I was drawing Super Saiyan, and it's actually funny to think about this, but even Dragon Ball Super was a part of my childhood because that came out back in 2015, and I was 12 years old back then, and I'm 21 years old right now. I turned 21 a few days ago, but yeah, Dragon Ball was just it was something special, and I didn't feel like I could move on without making this video and putting it on this channel. And even though this isn't a Dragon Ball channel, it really doesn't matter to me because, for one, I was always planning to slowly turn this channel into a Dragon Ball channel in the first place. And number two, even though my channel has mostly been about MMO games and all of that stuff, I want to talk about, I want to just honor Akira Toriyama and what he's done for the world, because he's had a tremendous influence. Even my father, when I talked about how he had died and how it was saddening, even though he had only watched a couple of Dragon Ball movies with me and only heard of Dragon Ball back in like 1990 and didn't really even watch it, he knew that Akira Toriyama had a tremendous influence, because that's what he said. Now, sorry about that from earlier. I'd accidentally turned off the recording, but basically, he had said that he had had a tremendous amount of influence, and like Tite Kubo has brought up before, as long as the work is there, you know, he's still alive. And when I think of Akira Toriyama nowadays, I imagine like this huge after image of him, and everything's golden because that's how his presence feels now. His work is pretty much everywhere, you know, uh, and all I'm going to say is that as long as his work is there, and as long as this world exists, he will never be forgotten, and that is something to be proud of. And I also want to take the time to bring up some of the Dragon Ball games because I forgot to mention them. I did mention them, but I also wanted to bring up the games that I played, like Raging Blast 2. That was one of the first games. That was one of the first Dragon Ball games that I ever played, and I've been wanting to actually, like, back before I got that game, I'd actually wanted to play it for a long time because I remember in my early days of watching Dragon Ball, or in my early days of just looking up Dragon Ball videos, I remember seeing the character select screen for Dragon Ball Raging Blast 2 and the gameplay and all that. And so when I had finally gotten the game, it was amazing for me. I think I got the game in like second or third grade. But yeah, Raging Blast 2, that's an OG for me. And then also the next game that I also want to bring up is the Budokai games. Really, Budokai's 1 and 3, and especially Budokai 3. That game was one of the more addicting Dragon Ball games that I played, and it had a lot of replayability where you can like unlock characters and stuff. And but I think that was a game I played back when I was 12, and that's one of the most nostalgic games ever. Even though I love Raging Blast 2, Budokai 3. The original Budokai 3, not Budokai Tenkaichi, because I never really played those games because it didn't have a Wii or a PlayStation 2. But Budokai 3, that game was something special, and that's all I'm going to say. But obviously, I did play Xenoverse and Xenoverse 2 when those games came out. I'm recently been playing Xenoverse 2 again because after a certain MMO had gotten like really, really bad, I needed something to replace that temporarily. In Xenoverse 2, it helped out a lot, and it made me realize how much inspiration it took from that certain MMO that will not be named. But yeah, Xenoverse 2, that's actually a really good game in retrospect. It was a good game when I played it, but my data had been deleted and everything. So I had to restart again, and even then, it was still a good experience. But yeah, I just needed to bring up the Dragon Ball games real quick because the Dragon Ball games, those also they also shaped my childhood as well, just as much as the Dragon Ball franchise in general. And then the Dragon Ball movies. I remember watching the Dragon Ball movies over and over again. Those were iconic and something that I will never forget about. And then shout outs to Vegito 10,098 or 1098. That dude is an OG. I remember watching his Goku versus Superman video. I think it has like over 14 million videos. That video is an OG video. Vegito versus Gotenks. That video is also an OG video.
Do you want? Come on, I am the one who will destroy you! Then I will enjoy watching you die. You're mine! Your energy.
I remember I'm starting to like all of this nostalgia is starting to come back when it comes to the people I've watched when it comes to Dragon Ball. Rhyme Style, Unreal Entertainment Gaming. That dude is one of the first Dragon Ball YouTubers I watched. As a matter of fact, I think that is the first Dragon Ball YouTuber that I've watched, and you know he's an OG, man. That dude, I was watching his videos back in I think 2012, his Raging Blast videos back in 2012, and then all of his other gaming videos like I think COD and Destiny, and I remember his Q&A videos as well that I was watching as a child. So shout outs to Unreal Entertainment Gaming, he was an OG. Shout outs to Rhyme Style, obviously Geekdom 101, he was also an OG, all those guys. And then it's a shame that I forgot to bring these people up, because this is literally future me right now, but I forgot to bring up Quaman and Black and Fist. Those guys were legendary. Their Dragon Ball videos were, in-depth analysis of the series, and those people deserve to be called out because they are also OGs. Though they were a part of my childhood, simply because they were Dragon Ball content creators, and I'm never going to forget about them either. But yeah, Dragon Ball as a whole has obviously been a huge part of my life, and I'm just never going to forget it. And Toriyama, he will always be someone who is seen as legendary because he is a legendary creator. And see, I'm going to have to pause the thing again because my PC keeps turning off. I don't know why, but all I'm going to say is that Akira Toriyama, he will always be seen as legendary. He will always be remembered as someone who created something so iconic that it will never be forgotten. And that is something to, that is something to look back at. And, even though I always respected his work and always, appreciated his work, I feel like we shouldn't feel bad if we, if some of you feel like you took him for granted, because the thing is that when it comes to Akira Toriyama, it's just when it comes, even if you respect him as much as possible, when someone like him dies, in which he has died, he's just someone, you just look back in retrospect and you realize how good his work is. He's just one of those people that no matter how much you respect, when he dies, it just, your respect for him just enlarges, and it's just that much greater. But yeah, everybody already knows that Toriyama is someone who will always be remembered as legendary, and I am glad that he managed to die with pretty much completing everything that he wanted to do. Of course, there's still Dragon Ball Diamond, but for the most part, he has created a whole entire legacy that no one will probably ever be able to match. But when it comes to Torio Taro, I do feel, I really do feel for him, because he has big shoes to fill, and I pray that just maybe, that he'll be able to even reach Toriyama's potential somehow. But I would not expect that much from him, because Toriyama, he was a different kind of being. But other than that, rest in peace, Toriyama, and may you rest eternally in heaven. And thank you for creating such a great series and creating such a great legacy. And that's all I have to say. You guys take care, and always remember Dragon Ball.